and welcome to this Google Digital Garage series, part of the Local Enterprise Office Look for Local campaign. Look for Local aims to highlight small Irish businesses in every sector, asking that the public look to support companies in their own locality when purchasing goods and services. This Garage series has been designed to prepare small businesses for the reopening of the economy and to ensure that they are in a strong position to take advantage of the huge move to online that has taken place since the pandemic first began. This is a series of expert-led webinars, and each one is worth watching. If you miss one, they will be available online once the series is finished. There will also be a marketing toolkit and a national database of companies available. Contact your local Leo for details. Thousands of small businesses across the country have already availed of the Local Enterprise Trading Online Voucher scheme. These vouchers are designed to assist small businesses with up to 10 employees to trade more online, boost their sales, and reach new markets. If your business has not yet availed of a voucher, then please speak to your Leo about how it can support your online success. Leos across the country are running a wide range of mentoring and training supports for businesses to help them get back up and running over the summer months. So check with your Leo to see what events they are running and how they can support you. This exciting partnership with Google is part of this summer's Local Enterprise Office Look for Local campaign that will be running in July. It will spotlight Leo clients from across the country and encourage everyone to look for local when they are buying goods and services. If you would like to get more information on the Look for Local campaign or how to get involved, then please contact your local enterprise office. Thank you very much and enjoy the webinar.
Hi everyone, welcome to this Google Digital Garage training session on digital marketing strategy. As Joe just mentioned there, this is a part of a collaboration between the local enterprise offices and Google Digital Garage as part of the upcoming Look for Local campaign. And the goal of that is to help prepare local businesses to maximise all opportunities as the economy reopens. My name's Emma, I'll be your trainer today. I'm a trainer with Google Digital Garage, Google's free skills training program, and also an experienced digital marketer. We also have Amy with us today. You can't see her on the screen, but you can see her over in the chat. And I can see that some of you have already said hello, introduce your businesses. We've got some picnic styling, we've got coffee, window films. I'm just picking out a few that I can see in the chat there, but I know there's a lot of other people starting to join us. So do share what business you're joining us from today and just say hello to Amy there in the chat. You can spot her by the wrench next to her name, just in blue, just in case there's a couple of different Amy's in there today. So she'll be in the chat sharing some links as we go through and mention various resources, but also she'll be keeping an eye out for your questions and passing some of those questions over to me for our Q&A breaks that we'll have two of, one partway through and one at the end. So don't feel like you have to wait for those to pop up on your screen. Do share in the chat as we go through the different topic areas. If something comes into your mind, feel free to share in the chat there and then, and Amy can either answer it there or she'll pass some over to me because she does only have a couple of hundred characters to work with there in the chat. A couple of quick housekeeping bits and pieces before we get started. If at any point you have trouble viewing the webinar, please try refreshing first. That tends to be the thing that fixes the majority of issues if you're not syncing up quite right with us, and that should fix it. And let us know in the chat if you have any persistent issues. If you'd like to join the chat today, I can see a lot of you joining already, but for anyone who hasn't and is wondering how to, if you're not signed in, you'll just need to create or sign into a YouTube account. Very quick to do, and you should see either on the right or potentially underneath this video the sign in button to create your account if you haven't got one, or to sign into one if you have. If you don't see that, you just see the chat, great, you're already signed in and you can start using the chat straight away. And if you would like to find out more about the rest of this series, we'll mention this again at the end as well, but the link is in the description box below this video if you'd like to see what else we have coming up. I'd also like to introduce at this point, and again, we'll mention this at the end too with a link, but we'd love for you to check out the new Google for Small Business website, which is a one-stop shop for products, tools, resources to help your business grow online. There's a really simple step-by-step online success guide, which can help you to create or evolve your website. It can help you to reach more customers and build loyalty. And we've got some great tips, tools, and resources there. So Amy will be able to share a link to that. And as I said, we'll mention that at the end as well, so you can maybe have a look at that after this session. Finally, I know something we always get asked, will you be able to watch this again? I think Joe already mentioned, actually, yes, you'll be able to watch the whole series. Anything you miss, do bookmark this page where you'll be able to see the video straight away after we finish. And we'll also have a feedback form. If you fill that in, you'll get access to the PDF of the slides as well. So whether you prefer to rewatch the video, the whole thing, or you just want the slides to save you taking a load of notes as we go through, just fill in that feedback form and you'll be able to get access to both of those. So I think that's all our housekeeping done. Let's get straight on with digital marketing strategy. We're going to look at understanding digital marketing and the landscape, what it means for businesses. We'll look at 6 different digital marketing channels. This is where we'll spend most of our time. And finally, 6 steps for building a digital marketing plan as well. So before we take a look at the actual channels and how to start building that strategy, let's have a look at what digital marketing can actually do for you and your business. And I'd love to know in the chat, what opportunities do you get from being online if you already are? Or what opportunities might you get from being online if you're not, or if you're looking at putting more into digital? What's the reason for that? Why do you want your business to be online? You might have some reasons that are very specific to your own business or industry, or some of the ones that we're going to share today as well. So let us know in the chat. And while you're having a think about that, I'm just going to talk a little bit about the digital landscape before we talk about some of those opportunities. So in Ireland, 65% of people buy online, and this is reflecting our changing behaviour over the past, well, decades really, but particularly over the last couple of years, and particularly in times of COVID, mobile is really changing our behaviour. We can research, buy, and find out more about products from our mobile phones, which are usually quite near to us at any point in the day for the majority of people. And that allows us to really look up things when we think of them. We don't have to be sat down at a desktop computer. We don't have to walk into a shop or cafe. We might want to look at a menu at home before we go into a restaurant. So there's lots of opportunities for your customers to research you and find businesses to engage with online before they ever interact with you in person. And for some of you might have entirely online businesses as well. So you might never be face-to-face with people. 3.8 billion smartphones are in use today. So as I said, really changing that behavior. People can search for something when they think of a question, they can find the answer straight away. They might be walking down the road and want to find out businesses that are near them. They might want to find things like directions and opening hours, and they can do all of that on their phone. And mobile traffic accounts for over 50% of global web traffic. So whether you're looking at a local audience, or maybe you're looking a bit further afield and to tap into other markets instead, or as well as your local market, it's likely that over 50% of your traffic will be using mobile. So the majority of your potential customers will be on mobile. And then of course we have people accessing that information on tablet, desktop, laptop as well. So lots of different ways that people can start to engage with your business. So let me see if we've got any opportunities. I can see attract new customers from the knitting class. I can see Liberty Henwick saying I've received bookings through Instagram as your business is very visual. Class Art saying want to market online. So some really great examples of opportunities there. And one of the main ones, and that's reflected actually in a couple that you've said there as well, is just to reach more people online. It's a very basic opportunity that most businesses will want to do. So this is pretty much one that will apply to the majority of you, I would have thought. There aren't many businesses who don't want to reach more people. It's kind of a core concept of marketing, really. So that's the first opportunity we're going to talk about. The screenshot you can see in the mobile phone here is a website called Google Trends. Now, this is a tool that's available to you at no charge. You don't have to sign in or create an account. You just go to trends.google.com and you can see search trends around different words and phrases related to your own industry. So to give you an example, we've chosen cut your own hair as our phrase, and you can imagine the times that that might have spiked. We're looking at just Ireland. You can change that as well. So maybe you start off looking at Ireland and then you also want to see what this pattern looked like in Australia, for example, any other markets you want to tap into. Start off with your local market and explore the trends there. And we're looking at the past 12 months, but you can make that, say, 5 years or just the last week, and really look at the timescale you're interested in. So you can try out this tool for different words and phrases related to your own products, services, businesses, industries. See what trends are peaking and also dipping. See any seasonal trends. If you change this to 5 years, you get a really good idea of when your peak times of year might be, probably reflecting what you already know, but it gives you that data to understand exactly when people start searching for your products and services. You can also see longer term trends that have been steadily increasing or decreasing in terms of search, trends related to news that you might see suddenly spike, kind of like this one, where we see it spike towards the end of March 2020. And you might see some that are also starting to drop off as well. So it can help you to plan around what your customers are looking for. You can also use digital to learn more about your customers and who they are and what they're interested in. This example here is from Google Analytics. For this particular business, we're looking at the age group of their website visitors. That's the bar chart. And then we've also got the pie chart showing the gender split as well. So we can start to understand a bit more about our website visitors here. For this particular business, we're looking at the 25 to 34 age group, and largely male, 68% male versus 32% female. They might have a completely different audience over on Facebook, for example. So there's lots of other tools you can look at across all your different social platforms that will give you different information about your customers. For example, maybe you're more interested in what city they're visiting from to see if they are local to you or they're from a bit further away. That's another report you could access through Google Analytics and through a lot of the social insight tools too. So Amy can share a link to analytics. If you've got that already, you might have access to this report or others looking at things like location and language. You can also use that to investigate what kind of content people are interested in. So whether that's on your website, which pages are they looking at, whether that's over on Instagram, what posts are people most engaging with, or maybe something like YouTube, what videos are people watching. You can really learn more about what your customers want to see from you. And finally, communicating and supporting better, growing relationships with your customers, and also answering questions, replying to reviews, both the good, the not so good, and maybe the constructive in the middle there, answering questions around things like opening hours, or, are you open over the summer holidays? Anything that your customers might not be able to find, they can get answers from you directly instead. And just those conversations too, when people might say nice things about you on social media. Maybe they're just sharing a picture of something they bought from you. Lots of great opportunities for you to connect and engage. So in terms of digital marketing channels, we're going to look at 6 here today. Let us know in the chat which of these you've either already using regularly, or maybe that you've tried out or you've thought about trying. It'd be good to see. There's usually a bit of a mixture. We might have some businesses who've never tried anything before, and that's why you're here. Others who have been around for a while and have tried a few of these, but just want to see what they can do next or to optimize what they're doing. So let us know. It'd be great to see what that mixture looks like for this particular group. So we're going to look at SEO, the process of optimizing your website so it shows up more often in search results. SEM, or search ads, or search engine marketing, or Google ads in this case we'll be looking at, which is any ads that you pay for, and they'll appear in the same place as SEO in search engine results pages, but it all works very differently behind the scenes. Then we've got social media marketing. Of course, this has lots of different names because we have lots of different social platforms. We've got Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn, Snapchat, forums you might pop in here as well. Anything that you could use to gain traffic and attention and build that sort of community around your business. We've got display marketing. That's online ads that you might see across the internet. So in places like forums, alongside blogs, online newspapers and magazines, a lot of them support their content through displaying ads. And you can be one of the businesses that advertise in that space. So we'll see some examples. There's lots of different formats that these can take. Then we'll look at email marketing. So we're talking really about newsletters here. There are a few different ways to use email marketing and more sort of sales-driven one-to-one emails, but we'll be talking more about those emails that you send to multiple people at once, the newsletter type of style. And finally, content marketing. Like with social media, there's actually lots of sub-channels within content marketing, different things you can try, like videos, blog posts, infographics, guides, quizzes, ebooks, longer form content, shorter form content. So we've got some options here depending what your content is about, what your resources are, and also what best suits your audience and their needs too. So let's start off with looking at search marketing, and we're going to look at SEO, then SEM, but let's start off with just understanding exactly what each is and what the distinction is there. So we've got outlined in yellow here what we would call the search query or search term, keyword, key phrase, search phrase, lots of different ways to refer to this, and it's basically the word or phrase that someone has typed into a search engine. This one, best compact camera for travel, sort of medium to long length. You can just, of course, search one word, or you can make this a lot longer. If you look at your own search habits, I'm sure you do this yourself. You'll tailor what you're typing in, depending what you're trying to find. Some might have a lot more detail and be quite long. Others will be a lot shorter and more specific. Everything else that we see on the page is related to that search query. So the first section that we have in blue here are the ads. We actually have two different types of ads. That's not always the case, but we have two. Because this is a product-related search, Google's showing some shopping ads. They're the ones you see with the camera images on there. So we get the product name, the price in dollars here, but obviously you'd be looking at in euro, or maybe you're looking in dollars and you're selling to the US as well, most likely in your local currency. You'll also see the name of the business. So that's great if somebody then recognizes your name. Maybe they know that you're local and that kind of gives them the nudge to click on you over the others. And we have the star ratings underneath as well from reviews. They don't always show up, but they do quite often. Underneath that, we've just got one paid text ad. You can see it marked out by ad in green in the little box there next to it. So customers or searchers know exactly which bits are paid for and which bits aren't. We might have 3 or 4 of these at the top. We might have some more at the bottom. In this case, we've just got one, and the shopping ads are taking up quite a bit of space at the top there. That's all the ad section in the blue. In the green, we've then got what we call the organic search listings. Organic because they're naturally occurring. They're not paid for. When we say they're not paid for, you're not paying a search engine to appear there. It's based on what Google thinks, or Google in this case, thinks is the most relevant page or pages to show the person searching. So this will be based on obviously what they've typed in. All of these are related to best compact cameras for travel or travelers, top 10, which is very close to best. So we can see how these have been related, and actually a bit of an older screenshot, which is why we've got some 2018 lists showing up there. Of course, if we search now, we might see sort of 2020 or 2021 showing up instead. It's also based on the language they've searched in. Of course, you're unlikely to start to see amazing French camera shops in here because we've searched in English, and potentially likely to see something related to your previous searches as well here. So let's start with that green section, how to get started appearing in those coveted spots, either on the first page or further down the results. The first step, whether you've got a new website or you've been around for a while, is signing up for a tool called Search Console. This is available at no charge. You do have to create an account, and you'll have to verify your site to let Google know that you do in fact own or manage that site. And then once you're signed up and signed in, you'll be able to see how you're doing in search right now. You'll also be able to submit your website to Google on different pages to make sure that Google knows that those pages exist in the first place. So you might find you're actually already showing up in search results, even if you've never thought about SEO before. It's likely that you are relevant to some search results already, and you can see how you're doing at the moment. And that gives you a good baseline to work from. You can figure out what needs a bit more work or what's already doing well. It will also send you alerts, and you can set this up to send via email or just when you log into Search Console, any critical issues that have popped up when Google's tried to access your site or pages. Maybe you've gone missing or are blocking Google from being able to do what we call crawling your site and finding those pages. So really useful both for finding out any issues that are happening and just that general monitoring of your SEO performance. You want to think about how Google finds your site as well. So if you're already showing up in search results, great, Google knows your site exists and it's indexed some of your pages, which means it just has them on the list of all the potential pages out there on the internet that it could show up in search results. If that's not the case, or if you're brand new, or if you've changed a lot of your site recently, maybe you've moved domains or added or removed lots of pages, renamed a few things, you might want to submit a sitemap. Your website might already have a sitemap. Some platforms create that for you automatically. If not, there's a lot of tools out there that can help you to create a sitemap. So check out for your website platform if that's already built in or not. You can then submit that to Google, and it basically gives search engines a guide to your site, a map of your site, basically, where the name comes from. The next thing to think about is sharing new content. So thinking about what your customers want to see and what they might want to see in the near future, and starting to create new content on your site around those topic areas. And naturally, you'll be creating new content whenever you add a new product or service page anyway. So you might be doing this without really thinking about SEO anyway. Finally, we want to make sure that search engines understand your content. So we're not writing the content for the search engine. We're writing it for the humans. They're the ones who are going to read it, those potential and existing customers of yours who are visiting the site. But we do want to structure it in a way that helps search engines to interpret the page and understand what it's about. So the first step, and one that's quite an easy one to get started with, well, depending how many pages you have, is looking at your page titles. Does each page title really reflect the content that's on that page? Maybe you named that page 10 years ago when you set up your site and the content's changed, but you never really updated the title. Is it unique? Do you have 5 pages with the same title? That's going to make it harder for both humans and search engines to understand the difference between those pages. So you might want to rename a handful of your pages. Maybe you want to restructure all of the titles. Or if you're newer and you're creating new content, obviously you're starting from a blank slate and you can really think about those page titles from the beginning. You can also think about what we call the meta description or the snippet. So just to go back here to show you what this looks like, that first listing within the green section, the organic section here, the tech radar one, the snippet we're seeing here is the bit that starts the combination of a long zoom range and compact dimensions, etc., etc. That one sentence, you can see that's a little bit longer for the one underneath. They're both the snippets or meta descriptions. So they give a bit of an understanding again, a summary of what that page is about, or a bit of an introduction to the content. This can come from the page. Sometimes Google grabs a section from the page content, but it can also be written by you behind the scenes. Depending on your website platform, there's often a box for each page in the settings where you can write that meta description yourself. So have a look for that. Look in your website's platform support as well. They usually have a section on SEO and where to write that snippet. And if you've written them before, just review them and make sure again that they are unique and that they are accurate and also readable by humans. They shouldn't be a list of different keywords. They should be sentences written for a human to read. If you do have any longer content, you may wish to use heading tags to split that up and structure the content. Again, both for the users, if we're skimming a page, those headings can be really helpful, but also for Google to understand how that page is sectioned out and what each section is about. So some tips for getting started, and do ask any questions in the chat. Amy can answer there, but also pass them over to me for our Q&A, which we'll do at the end once we've covered all of the channels. So keep those coming in. First tip, run keyword research. Start off by brainstorming a list of words and phrases that your customers might be searching for. If you have a lot of different products or services, start out, think about maybe one product or range at a time. So if you run, I always use yoga classes as an example for some reason. If you run yoga classes and Pilates classes, let's say, okay, let's think about keywords around yoga classes. What would people be searching for? And then you can move on to your next sort of service area. Same thing with products. If you have hundreds of different products, you could have hundreds or thousands of different keywords. So take it one section at a time. You can use tools like Google Trends to check that what you're thinking of actually matches what people are searching for. And also the Google Keyword Planner, which is part of Google Ads, we'll be talking about next. Make sure you're continuing to publish and update your content, so make it useful, high quality, and remember you're writing it for humans, not search engines. But we do also want to make sure that it's search friendly by using some of those elements like the page title, like naming your images in a search friendly way, giving the image a name that reflects what's actually in the image instead of IMG57X0. Give it a name that makes sense. Again, very useful for search engines, and some of those other elements that we've already mentioned. And customers are also searching, particularly at the moment, for local businesses specifically. So they may be interested in finding you in more of a local capacity if they're very close to you. So they might be searching for things like near me, for example, at the end of that word or phrase. One of the ways you can start to get a bit more visibility locally is to make sure you're taking advantage of any of those listing opportunities out there for local businesses. So for Google, that's a tool called Google My Business. It's available at no charge. I'm sure Amy can share the link for you, or you can search for Google My Business, or there is also an app as well. You can set up your listing there if you prefer to do it that way. Whichever way you go about it, you can set up your listing, add things like opening hours, reply to reviews. You might also wish to look at listings in other places, Bing Places, for example, so a similar idea, but over on Bing. There's also TripAdvisor if you are a local business that people come into, maybe more hospitality based. You've got Yell as well, and you might find some that are hyper local, so really local to your specific area, listings at sites out there that you can be part of, or also even industry specific too. So look out for those opportunities to get those listings and then to keep them up to date. But you do want to make sure the details are up to date and showing people, and the listing sites that you're still active. Make sure you're updating any business information like changed phone numbers. So if you have set up listings already a while ago, just go back and have a quick check over. Does everything still make sense, and is everything still accurate? Add up-to-date photos of your business, team, products and services to give a good first impression, and to make sure that they're not photos from Christmas when we're now coming into summer. So you might want to change those on a semi-regular basis, especially if you are a more seasonal type of business. You might even look at adding something like a virtual tour to show people around before they even get through the door. And make sure for most of these listing sites that you are able to log in regularly and reply to reviews. So if they have a review functionality on there, which a lot of listing sites do, including Google My Business, then make sure that you are checking in on those. A lot of them will send you things like email alerts, or like the Google My Business app, you can reply through the app as well, just to make it easier to sort of fit into your week. You might also have team members who you can give access so they can reply to listing reviews on your behalf. So let's look at SEM and what the difference is here. So SEO, at no charge, you're not paying a search engine to appear there. You optimize content around certain topic areas that you know your customers are interested in. And it can take time. It's a longer term process. You're not going to create a page today and it shoot up to the top of Google tomorrow. With SEM, or search engine marketing, search engine ads, you pay for search listings. For Google, you actually pay when somebody clicks on your ad. So you're not paying upfront for it, but you pay when that click happens. You bid on keywords. So you actually give Google a list of the keywords and phrases you'd like to show up for. Instead of having to write the content around them, you just say, here's the keywords I want to be considered for. And you can potentially get onto the first page straight away. Of course, it depends on competition, how good your ad is, how relevant you are to the particular search term. But there's nothing stopping you necessarily from appearing pretty quickly as soon as your ad is approved. So you might want to use these two channels in conjunction with each other. If you have a website, you definitely should be considering SEO, but you also might want to look at using ads to appear and get that extra visibility in search engines too. Now for search engine marketing SEM, for Google, you'd be logging into Google Ads. You can do that with an existing Google account, and we're selecting the search campaign type. We'll talk about display shortly. You can then select things like a campaign goal. So do you want to drive footfall through to a local physical presence? Do you want to drive traffic to your website? Do you want to drive sales, lead generation? It really will depend on your type of business here. You can also choose things like your location targeting. So you could target a very specific radius around where you're based. Imagine you have sort of a radius of 5-mile delivery area, for example, or service area. You can target the whole of Ireland if you want to, or you can even go further afield and have different campaigns for different countries if you're more international. The next step is thinking about picking the right keywords. So really similar to the keyword research we just talked about for SEO, but this time you're putting those keywords directly into Google Ads and telling Google, this is what I want to show up for. There's two different main types of search campaign. We've got smart campaigns where you'll give Google some basic keyword topic areas and it will kind of do the rest for you. Or if you go into expert level, you have a bit more control managing things called match types, which tell Google exactly what you do and don't want to show up for within that topic area. You can also refine this with negative keywords. So if you sell glasses that you wear, you probably don't want to show up if someone's searching for gin glasses, whiskey glasses, wine glasses. Although they contain the word glasses, it's just not what you do. So that's where negative keywords can come in. You can say, actually, we want to show up for glasses, but not anything that contains wine, gin, whiskey, etc. So that just helps you to refine that a little bit more and have a bit more control. And of course, at some point, you'll need to write your ad. So this should be focusing on user benefits. Think about any copy you've written elsewhere for your website. You can skim through that for inspiration. What are those unique selling points? What will make people want to click across all these different devices? And you can also preview your ad in mobile and desktop within Google Ads before you set it live. Focus on those headlines because that's the first part of the ad, that top line, the first bit that people see. Often people do skim, so that will be the part where you want to grab their attention. And also think about implementing ad extensions, which are effectively extra bits you can add to your ad to make it take up more space. For example, a location extension, which shows people exactly where you are based. There's a few different options. It will really depend on which ones are relevant for your business, but definitely worth considering which ones are worth adding. The tips for success here, do really focus on building that keyword list. Do implement those extensions. You don't pay extra for these. You just pay when somebody clicks on your ad like you would anyway. So it's just that extra time setting up the extensions, well worth it in my opinion. And do connect your analytics account so you can see what happens after somebody clicks on your ad and they get through to your website. Okay, so on to display marketing. And this actually starts off in very much the same way as we'll see. But what are they first and foremost? Well, they're image ads usually. They can be text ads. Some people would include video ads in here. I think they're almost a separate channel, such a big thing of their own these days. And what we're seeing here is actually 3 examples highlighted in yellow of display ads appearing 3 different formats. We've got the banner ad across the top. We've got the first one on the right, which is sort of a skyscraper type of ad. And we also have what's called a mid-size unit. So we've got that, the Lean Plumbers, a leader one underneath. They kind of look like, because they're from the same brand, they look like one big ad, but it's actually 2 separate ones on one page. So this is appearing just on the Food Network. It's nothing to do, they haven't got a partnership or anything like that. Food Network have basically created this ad space and they've gone to an ad network like Google Ads and said, hey, we've got this ad space, obviously a bit more automated than this. They can just sign up automatically online. And then you as the advertiser can show up in those spaces. So from your side, the advertiser side, you log in the same places for search into Google Ads. You can even use the same account, so you don't have to set up a new one. That helps you just keep an eye on your budgets and things like that across all of your campaigns. This time we're selecting the display campaign type, and then the rest of the setup is actually quite similar. Where it starts to differ is where you're looking at targeting, because instead of searching now, people are just browsing, reading, looking at information online that may or may not have anything to do with your industry. So you can target in lots of different ways. There is a built-in planner tool that can help you as you go through the process. It can help you select and you can see how big the audience you're choosing is, or if it gets too small, or if it's still a bit too vague. So you can really play around with it even before you're ready to run an ad and just get an idea of who that audience is. So you could look at things like demographics, you could target specific websites, you could target based on topics. So we could say, okay, we want to show up on websites related to food, like the Food Network. Or we could even target based on the person who's browsing and their interests. So maybe people are interested in food, even if they're not on a food website. And similar to search, the next step is then creating your ad, but this time as well as the copy, we also need to think about imagery. So think about keeping it clean and simple. There's a lot going on pages like this. You've got the main article they were there to read. We've got multiple ads, links, all sorts of things happening. So try and keep it clean and simple to grab their attention. And do think about including a call to action to kind of nudge them as to what their next step should be. Really important for display advertising to understand the customers that you're targeting, which might not be all of your customers. It might just be one particular group. So think about for each campaign, who exactly is this ad for? You might have heard of remarketing or retargeting before. So if somebody visits your site, they take a few actions, but they leave without necessarily going to a particular page like checkout or a booking page, you can then show them ads as they're browsing to make sure that they have a little nudge to come back. And also really important with display to think about testing and optimizing. You get a lot of data, so you can start to compare different images and see which ones are working for your particular audience. So maybe you test 2 different images against each other and see which one over time has the better results. So another way to learn a bit more about how your customers are engaging. Okay, so on to social media marketing. This is probably the one some of you might have already tried, or you might even just use as a customer yourself, as a user of these platforms. So let us know which ones you already use or which one you think would be a good fit for your business. It'd be great to know, again, what that looks like across all the different types of businesses we have here today. So the goals of social media, firstly, to generate more sales. Up to 62% or around, I think it's about 63% now, of the Irish population are active monthly social network users. That's across different platforms, but really a huge proportion, nearly 2/3 of your potential customers will be online. And of course, that's different for different demographics. That's higher, tends to be higher the younger you get. So if your target audience are sort of 18-year-olds, you might find that that number is even higher. It can also help you to add value to your brand. So around customer service, social media is great for that, but also showing a different side to your business, sharing a bit of business personality and what's going on behind the scenes, and starting to build a bit of a community. And it can help to improve your other marketing too. So your social pages can also show up in search results, for example. You can also share social media posts across different platforms. So you can share a similar post on Facebook as on LinkedIn and really reuse some of your existing content. And you can use it, of course, to point towards your website. Like with search, we've got organic and paid, and the meanings are very much the same. Well, we know what paid means, but organic, sort of naturally occurring, no charge. This is where you're setting up your profile, account, page, depending which platform we're talking about. You're not paying for that and you're just posting. So you'll only reach your existing followers and potentially their wider networks if they start to engage a little bit more. With paid, this allows you to then reach that wider audience, and you're paying for either the views, actions, or clicks, again, depending which platform we're looking at and the type of ad, but you can then reach more people who don't necessarily already follow you. So the first step, again, is thinking about your target audience. Who are you trying to reach, and might they be on different platforms even? Maybe you've got 2 key audiences and they're on completely different platforms. So doing a bit of research to figure out where they might be and what they're interested in. Then choosing those channels. You might have done this already. If not, try and pick one to start with and then scale up based on your capacity, rather than spreading yourself too thin across 5 or 6 different channels. It can be a bit overwhelming. So pick one, really get to grips with it before you move on to another. And make sure you're posting consistently. And that could be videos, text posts, longer articles like you can post on LinkedIn, for example. Live video as well, infographics. There's lots of different types of content, so you can mix it up and use the data to see what your own audience like. And that might even be different on one social platform versus another. You might find your Pinterest audience obviously going to be very visual, whereas your LinkedIn audience, maybe they prefer reading a bit of a longer text post. So you can start to use that data to understand the content that your own audience prefer. Tips for success with social: set yourself a goal that isn't just about a total number of followers. Think about, do you want to use social to engage, to provide customer service, to drive traffic to your website, and really set yourself a goal for each platform. Understanding your audience, this is going to come up a couple more times. Audience is really important. So again, just knowing who they are and who you're trying to speak to when you write these posts. And that consistency, think about using a scheduling tool. There are some built into certain platforms, and there's also lots of third-party scheduling platforms too that can help you to be more consistent if you've got a lot of other things going on and you just need to squeeze social media in when you have time for it. Scheduling platforms can help you to spread it out across the week. Even if you sit down on a Monday and schedule a few posts at once, your audience don't have to know that. Email marketing. So as I said before, we're really talking about sending that one message to multiple people rather than those one-to-one emails. This is what we call permission-based, which means people need to opt in or sign up, give permission for you to email them. So really important to consider. You can't just add a load of people to your email list. You need to get them to opt in and give you permission. And it gives you the opportunity to connect with people at scale, but it still feels a bit more personal. And it can often be a really engaged audience because they've already got over that first hurdle of signing up, which tells you that they're interested in hearing about you. So it's a very specific audience who've already said, we're interested in what you have to say. The first step with email is selecting your platform. This is where everybody always asks, which one should I go for? It really does depend on your budget, but also on the platform features that you need. There are a few that are at no charge or have a tiered system where the first tier might be at no charge and others are more premium and add more features as you go. There are also more technical ones that you might want to go to straight away because they have specific features that you need. So do have a look at a few, maybe even sign up for trials of some if you can, and have a look behind the scenes to see which one best suits your own needs. The next step, and this is really ongoing, building that list of contacts. So adding things like a sign-up form to your website page is, so maybe in the header so it appears on every page, telling people on social media or even people who you see in person, having something in your physical location to ask people to sign up and giving them a QR code or a link or even a clipboard so they can give their email address there and then. Lots of different ways to invite those people to subscribe. You might also want to think about segmenting groups. So if you have a big audience or you have lots of different sub-audiences, they might want to hear different types of content. Maybe you have 3 different locations for your business, and most people will only be interested in news about their nearest location, their local one. So you could ask people when they sign up to tick a box and say which one they want to hear about. A really common one I get quite a lot for things I sign up for are menswear versus women's wear. They'll ask at checkout or whenever you're signing up, do you want to hear more? And if so, what do you want to hear more about? And you can check, women's wear, homeware, children's wear, whichever of the segments you're interested in. So think about if that applies to you, if you do have different audiences and they might want different types of content, and give them that option at the beginning. It's a little bit more work for you in that you have to think about those 2 audiences, but it really makes sure that the content you're sending them is very relevant to that specific group of people. Finally, and of course, again, ongoing, creating relevant and useful content on a regular basis. Regular for you might mean weekly. It might be a weekly email. Maybe it's monthly. Maybe it's a bit more sporadic, but have an idea of how often you might want to send so you can schedule that into your plan and into your calendar. Treat your users like VIPs. You want them to feel like they're part of an exclusive community and that there's a reason to stay subscribed. Maybe they're hearing something they don't get elsewhere. Maybe you're sharing your industry expertise. Maybe they're the first to hear about new products and services, maybe even special offers. It really depends on your business and your customers, but give them a reason to stay subscribed. Think about personalizing your emails as well. That could be as simple as saying, "Hi, Emma," at the beginning of emails. And most of the email providers give you a really easy way to do this. So you're not having to type that name in for every person, but they'll automate that process for you. So do make use of that if it's available in the platform that you choose. And make sure you're keeping it useful. If you send a weekly email, make sure there's something different each week. Otherwise, by week 3, we probably won't be as incentivized to open it if we know it's going to be the same content. So think about the frequency that makes sense for your business, where you'll have new and interesting things to share each time you email. So tips of success, do consider that segmentation. Do you have different audiences? Keep the design very simple and send it to yourself, maybe a couple of friends or colleagues, so you can see what it looks like and check everything's working before you hit send going out to that wider audience. And use the platform to look at things like open rates and click rates so you can see what's actually resonating with people, what they're more likely to open, which topic areas they're most interested in over time. Finally, content marketing. And as I said before, there's lots of different types of content. So we've got videos, blogs, case studies, guides. And the idea of content is not to be necessarily salesy content, but to provide useful, interesting, funny, engaging information at different stages of the customer journey. To help plan this out, you can think again about those customer profiles. So kind of those segments again, really here. It obviously is the same audience regardless of which digital channel you're talking about. So once you've built that customer profile, you can use it for all of these different channels. And for each group, create that customer journey map. So identify the steps that users might take from first becoming aware of you all the way through to purchase or bookings or registrations. And what questions or information might they have or need along the way? So for example, I bought a fridge a couple of weeks ago. I had no idea what I was looking for. So all my initial questions that I was typing into Google were very vague and very much just figuring out, what does this mean? What does that mean? What should I be looking for? As I got later on in the process, I was more likely to search for specific model names and then compare different potential sellers, and very, very product focused instead. So you can think about content that works at different stages of the journey. I watched several fridge videos, probably not something I'll be watching again, but worked really well for me at that particular point where I was just trying to figure out a bit more about each product. Other content might be better suited to a blog post or written content of some format. And then think about distribution as well. Where does that content go? Does it live on your website? Is it going for social? Is it going somewhere else on the internet, like YouTube, for example? And think about including a call to action as well, so guiding people as to where they should be going next. Tips for success: make sure you are thinking about content for all the different stages of the sales process, including after they've bought from you, and trying to get that loyalty element in. So after they've bought, might they have more questions? Do you have blog posts or other types of content that can engage with people even after they've engaged with you in the first place? Think about techniques like storytelling. You might want to learn more about how to write better, how to create better videos, and do a bit of research around whichever format you choose. Distribution, as we've already said, really important to get in front of as many people as possible. And finally, measuring performance, seeing what actually works in the long term and what doesn't, if there's any seasonality to your content as well. Maybe certain times of the year, people are looking for a certain topic area and that changes. So think about, for your own audience, what data is going to be the most useful to help you understand. And that could be from Google Analytics, for example, or from any of the social platforms where you're distributing that content. Okay, let me see if we've got any questions so far. Okay, we've got somebody asking about page names on Shopify. Use domain masking to have your own domain name on the shops, and that means you don't get unique page names. I'm not aware of that specific issue with domain masking. You should be able to have specific page titles anyway. It might be the specific way that's set up. That probably would be a question for Shopify support. I have seen worked on many Shopify sites before that have got their own page names, even with domain masking. So it might be more specifically around how that's set up. But the page title, every page has a page title. I see what you mean when you say you don't get unique page names. Maybe they all have the shop name or something like that. So worth talking to support and seeing there's a way around that, because I'm not sure, I'm afraid, for that specific question why that's not working for you. I can't see any other questions at the moment, but I can see a lot of you joining in chat as well, which is great. And Amy answering a lot of questions there as well. So we'll move on, and do share any of the questions you have, because we'll have another Q&A at the end, although I can see Amy's being kept very busy there too. So we're going to look at 6 steps for building a digital marketing plan. Channels is step 4. So we've sort of already talked about that one to an extent, and we have talked about audience a bit already. So it's pulling it all together and aligning it with your own goals, budget, resources, and also measuring at the end as well. So step 1, what's your business goal? This could be a longer term goal. Goals are usually at least mid-term, and then also objectives. So you might have a few smaller objectives that help you to work towards that goal. So for example, we have Max as our example business here. She's a hairdresser, and her business goals are to get more people through the door, both new and existing customers, and to get greater visibility in her local area. As a hairdresser, she can't do that remotely, so it's very much about people coming in through the door, and that has to be within that local area. People aren't going to drive 3 hours for a hairdresser most of the time. So she can take that goal and try and think of some online objectives. Now, these are just examples, not all for Max, not all relevant to her, but we've got things like increasing traffic to your website, increasing online sales, increasing social media page likes, or you could even be more specific as to which social platform you're looking at, increasing online reach and awareness. Now for Max, we're probably looking at 3 and 4 here because, as we'll see shortly, she doesn't actually have a website yet, and she doesn't sell anything online. So you really need to make sure that you're thinking of objectives that make sense for you. And the reason we've said online objectives is that you might be doing other types of marketing as well that are offline. So we're just looking at the online side, but you may well have, maybe she could create flyers to distribute to the local area. That would be a great objective, but it's not an online one. And your business goals should then align with your objectives. So for Max, one of the things she wanted to do is get found by more people. So an online objective for her could be increasing social media follows from her customers. She also wants to get more returning customers. Now she could increase traffic to her website here. She could be looking at engaging with those same people on social media, having more conversations with people through social, or things like email marketing as well. There's lots of potential online objectives that could help towards that same goal. The next step, number 2, is considering your budget and resources. So what is actually possible for you right now? And by right now, we mean the short term, sort of maybe 3 to 6 months. Anything that doesn't fit within this can still be part of your digital marketing plan, but it might be part of your longer term plan. So for Max, she doesn't have a website yet, and she knows it's too much of an investment for her right now. Maybe she doesn't have the time or the budget to put that together right away. So that's going into her maybe some point in the future list, and it won't be part of this current digital marketing plan for the next 3 to 6 months. So be realistic. How much time do you have? How much budget do you have? Are there any skills that you need to develop before you can do something? Is there something else you need? Like maybe you really want a website, but you need to take time to find somebody to create that for you. So there might be steps that are getting in the way of doing what you want to do. So be realistic. What can happen in this shorter term plan and what should still be on the list, but for a bit later. And defining your audience, lots of ways to do this. I quite like a spider diagram and draw it all out on paper. Max has written this as sort of more of a paragraph, a customer profile instead. You might want to do this as a team if there's more than one of you, or if you have a business partner, to make sure you're all on the same page about who that customer is or who those different groups are. Now, Max just has one specific group. You might have more than one. And she knows that they tend to be women, local, of course, they need to be able to come in. And she knows from seeing them face to face and talking to them, they tend to be over 30. They often have children, work part-time, and a lot of them use Facebook. Now, imagine that she also cut men's hair as well. She might have a whole second demographic there that she'd write a separate profile for. Same if she also cut children's hair, that would be the parents are really the customer there. For now, she's just targeting this one audience. Using your channels, I'm not going to spend too much time here because we've just talked about channels quite a lot. Your budget and resources will also impact which channels you choose, of course. Not necessarily going to be able to do everything all at once. If you have no budget, for example, but you have a lot of time, you could do something like content marketing, that you have time to sit and write a blog post, but you don't necessarily have time, have the budget to actually pay for display ads, for example. So you can choose the ones that both align with your objectives and make sense for your own budget, resources, time, capacity. Of course, might be talking just about you, or we might be talking about you and a team as well. So think about how much time you actually have, how much budget you have, and also what you're already doing, which channels are working you definitely want to keep. What else do you want to try over the next 3 to 6 months? Step 5 is going to look very, very different for everybody. So planning your activity, focusing on the detail for each platform, and thinking about the things that you just need to do as a one-off task, and then the ongoing tasks that need to be scheduled into your or somebody else's calendar. So for Max, we know she doesn't have a website. She's going to set up a listing on Google My Business and create a website there at no charge. So she can create a basic business website through Google My Business that will reflect things like her opening hours from that listing. So they're both sort of one-off tasks. They'll take a bit of checking in on every so often, but the bulk of the work is going to be done her sitting down for an hour to create the listing, or probably just 15 minutes to create the listing at first, optimizing it, maybe adding some more photos the next day. And really that's one of the things that once it's done, the bulk of the work is finished. She's also going to set up a Facebook page, so another sort of one-off task, but then she's got the ongoing work of collecting reviews and posting pictures. So she might also be posting to Google My Business and post there too. So she's already got some ongoing things to fit into her week here. She also wants to run some Facebook ads. She might need to set aside time to learn how to use Facebook ads in the first place. She might want to then set aside some extra time for setting up her first campaign, and then ongoing time to check in on the campaigns, optimize, see what's working, look at the data, maybe even set up more campaigns to attract more local customers. So yours will look very, very different here. This is the stage where you really need to focus on how much work you're giving yourself or others. Does that actually fit? Do you have more time? Could you add another channel in or some more activity? Maybe up the number of posts you're making a week? Or do you have really no time at all and this is all looking a bit too much, so you might need to scale it back a bit too? Then we need to think about how we'll know if we've succeeded. With digital, this is quite tricky because some things have instant impact. Somebody watches your video or they click on your ad, that's something we can measure straight away, but others are a bit longer term. So it's important to know for you what's important to measure and which metrics and which platforms you need to find those metrics as well. To help with this, we can use the framework of SMART objectives. So we've already come up with some objectives, these broad ones on the left, for example, to increase online sales. We can make that a bit smarter and sort of easier to manage in the long term by using the acronym SMART. So S is for specific. Okay, that's quite specific already. M is for measurable. Now, increasing online sales doesn't really give us an indication of a target or something we're specifically working towards. So you can see in the smarter objective, we've given ourselves the target of 20%. So we've now got an actual number to work towards. A is for attainable or achievable. I mean, we don't know Max's business, or in this case, an online sales business. Let's assume that they've thought about this and it is achievable for them. R is for relevant. Of course, if you're selling products online, then increasing online sales is relevant to you. And finally, T is for time-bound or timely. So that's why we've added in for the SMART objective on the right, we've added within 3 months, because we now know specifically the number we're aiming for, and we've given ourselves a bit of a time constraint as well. So see if you can take some of your objectives and give yourself more of a specific SMART objective that is easier for you to measure in the long run. And especially if you are working with others, it just means you all know exactly what you're aiming for and you can work together to really push your digital marketing plan forward. So this is what Max's plan looks like. We've got the 6 boxes here. You might prefer to do it on paper, have it in a notebook somewhere, have it up on your office wall, somewhere you can refer back to it later. And remember that as digital does change, you might want to revisit this regularly. Digital is never going to be a set in stone plan. New channels pop up. Probably most businesses didn't build in TikTok into their digital marketing plan 4 or 5 years ago, but you have to adapt as new things and new features pop up as well. So think of it as a working document, something you do want to stick to, but is also open to being adjusted as things change. So there are 6 steps. As we've said, you will be able to come back and rewatch the video and get access to the slides through our feedback form. So you can work through these steps on your own, pause the video when you need to, look at the slides to sort of support yourselves as you're walking through these 6 steps. Let me see if we've got any questions at all so far. I can see someone's mentioned our Fundamentals of Digital Marketing course. You can find that over on the Google Digital Garage website, so do take a look at that. That goes through all the channels we've talked about today and actually some more as well. Let me see what else we have here. I can't see any questions at the moment, so I can see that Amy again has been quite busy here, so hopefully been able to answer all of those for you. So let me talk about your next steps then instead. I said I would come back to this later. This is the Google for Small Business website. This is a new resource. I'd love for you to check it out. It's got an online success guide and links to lots of different tools and resources, as well as some COVID-19 guidance. So you can find out how to show up on Google, create a website, reach more customers, build loyalty. And you can see the link on the screen, and I'm sure Amy will be able to share that as well, google.com/smallbusiness. We would love for you to join us again for a Google Digital Garage webinar. As we mentioned, this is part of a series with the local enterprise offices as part of the Look for Local campaign. If you would like to be involved in the national listings that Joe mentioned in the intro at the beginning, please contact your local enterprise office. And same thing for the trading online vouchers he mentioned to help you create and support your online presence. Do get in touch with your local office and they'll be able to point you in the right direction there. We've got the link so you can join more of our sessions in this series below the video, and also I'm sure Amy shared that as well in the chat. And you can also look at online courses, including that Fundamentals of Digital Marketing course and many others through our website. We've got all the links on the screen here, or if you go to the Digital Garage link that again is in the description below the video. Finally, if you do have any feedback for us, we'd love to hear it, and that will also give you access to our slides from today in PDF format. And you also, of course, bookmark this page and come back to the video to watch it in your own time and review it later. So all that remains to be said is thank you very much for joining us today. I do hope we will see you in some of the future sessions in this series, and I hope you found it very useful. Thanks for joining us, and see you again soon.